Beneath the shimmering glow of crystal chandeliers in a garden overflowing with white roses, Abigail Harper, a brilliant financial advisor, stood motionless amid an opulent wedding. No one could have anticipated what she would do next. But when her eyes locked with the groom, James Wentworth, the man who had set her heart ablaze 3 years ago, a fire ignited in her chest. Her trembling hand rose, a few choked words escaped her lips, and the entire garden fell into stunned silence. In that moment, Abigail unwittingly shook the foundations of $1 million wedding, sparking a tempestuous, romantic, and mysterious love story. From a woman who lived by order and rules, she dared to risk everything for love, embarking on a journey toward a life she had never dared to dream of. Follow along to uncover this captivating tale. Subscribe to the channel to never miss a heartbeat of these fateful, emotional moments. Share if you believe a single second of courage can change a lifetime. Beneath the dazzling glow of Manhattan's towering skyscrapers, Abigail Harper, 32, strides with the unshakable confidence of someone who has conquered every challenge. She is the embodiment of the American dream, a young, gifted woman, valedictorian of Harvard's economics program, her degree a gleaming badge of honor. In just a few short years, she has left an indelible mark at a prestigious New York financial consulting firm, becoming the youngest advisor ever to ascend to a senior role. With a mind as sharp as a blade and discipline forged like steel, Abigail possesses a rare talent for turning billionaires' financial dreams into reality. She dissects data, predicts market trends, and crafts strategies that transform millions into billions. In boardrooms, her voice rings with commanding clarity. Her piercing gaze makes even seasoned CEOs nod in agreement. Abigail's life is as meticulously organized as a flawless Excel spreadsheet. Her Upper East Side apartment is a study in minimalist elegance, its expansive windows framing New York's glittering skyline. Each morning she rises at 5, jogs along the Hudson River, and prepares for a workday that stretches late into the night. Her collection of tailored business dresses, exorbitant high heels, and the white gold watch on her wrist are testaments to her success. Colleagues admire her, clients respect her, and her reputation in the financial world is impeccable. Abigail Harper, to all appearances, is an icon of perfection. Yet beneath this polished exterior lies a void she dares not confront. Though she denies it, her heart bears a faint scar, a memory of a man from her past. In rare moments when she allows herself to pause her relentless race against time, when the city's lights blur beyond her window, a quiet loneliness creeps in. Work is her sanctuary, a fortress where she controls every outcome. Love, with its chaos and unpredictability, is something she sidelined long ago. Abigail has no time for fleeting dates or shallow relationships. She has built a life where everything is within her grasp, except for the one piece she refuses to admit she's missing. As a black woman in an industry dominated by white faces, Abigail has learned to fight twice as hard to prove her worth. Every achievement is the fruit of relentless effort, of sleepless nights perfecting reports, of maintaining a professional smile in the face of skeptical glances. She's grown accustomed to being judged, her competence questioned because of her skin. But Abigail never lets it stop her. She turns doubt into fuel, every barrier into a stepping stone to climb higher. To the world, she is an unstoppable force, a radiant star in finance. Only she knows that deep within, a part of her yearns for something greater than work, fame, or wealth. Memories of that man surface when she least expects them. Sometimes it's an old melody drifting through a cafe, or a breeze carrying the faint scent of cologne that recalls a summer night 3 years ago. She tries to bury those memories, convincing herself they were a fleeting moment, too insignificant to alter her life's trajectory. But her heart, as Abigail is beginning to realize, has its own way of reminding her of what she's tried to forget. That man, James Wentworth, stormed into her life like a hurricane, shaking the walls she'd so carefully built. Their encounter was brief, but electric, leaving her with a feeling both sweet and agonizing. When she left New York for a major project in London soon after, she chose her career over her heart. Now, 3 years later, She wonders if she truly made the right choice. Abigail is not one to dwell on regret. She's learned to keep her eyes forward, always focused on the next goal. But in quiet moments, she wonders what might have been if she'd stayed, if she'd dared to give her heart a chance. She tells herself her current life is all she needs: a soaring career, an enviable bank account, a future brimming with possibility. Yet that small void in her heart persists, a whisper that life is more than numbers or titles. Abigail doesn't know that in one unexpected moment, everything she's so carefully built will be tested, and she'll face the greatest question of her life. Will she have the courage to follow her heart's call? From the outside, Abigail's life is a masterpiece. But like any great work of art, it hides subtle cracks, waiting for a fateful moment to be revealed. That moment is drawing near, concealed in an invitation to a lavish wedding, where her past and future will collide in ways she cannot foresee. Abigail, the woman who controls everything, is about to embark on a journey where her heart will lead the way, guiding her beyond the barriers of reason, prejudice, and even herself. In the relentless pulse of New York, where each day races by like an unending marathon, Abigail Harper rarely allows herself to pause. Her work at a top-tier financial consulting firm consumes nearly every moment, filled with long days in boardrooms and late nights hunched over spreadsheets. But on a Friday afternoon, as the sunset bathes Manhattan's streets in golden hues, Sarah, her closest colleague and one of the few who truly knows her, steps into her office with a mischievous smile. Sarah carries an irresistible invitation to attend a lavish wedding on the outskirts of New York, where the elite gather in unimaginable splendor. "You need a break, Abby," Sarah says, her voice brimming with persuasion. "Gourmet food, fine wine, and who knows, maybe you'll find a spark amid all that glittering light." Abigail, ever practical and deliberate, hesitates at first. She's not one for extravagant social affairs, where smiles often mask agendas and conversations rarely delve beyond the superficial. But Sarah knows how to strike at her vulnerabilities. "You've been working non-stop for months," she insists, her eyes gleaming with genuine care. "Just one night, Abby. Let yourself live a little." After a moment's reluctance, Abigail nods, thinking a single evening away from her computer screen and endless emails might be the remedy she needs. She has no idea this small decision will fling open the door to a new chapter in her life, where her carefully laid plans will be upended by an uncontrollable storm of emotion. The next day, Abigail stands before the mirror in her elegant apartment, adjusting a sapphire silk dress she rarely has occasion to wear. The deep blue fabric accentuates her warm brown skin, and as she turns, the light from the window dances across the smooth material, as if it's weaving a story of grace and sophistication. She chooses small pearl earrings in a minimalist clutch, striking a balance between striking and understated. As the car whisks her away from the city's clamor toward the sprawling estate, Abigail feels an inexplicable thrill. She tells herself it's merely the novelty of stepping outside her comfort zone. But deep down, something whispers that this evening will be unlike any other. The estate emerges like a scene from a classic novel. Vast gardens stretch endlessly, adorned with marble fountains that shimmer in the fading sunlight. Twinkling string lights dangle between ancient oaks, casting a romantic yet commanding atmosphere. As Abigail steps out of the car, she senses the weight of wealth and privilege enveloping her. Guests in resplendent attire glide through the gardens, the clink of wine glasses mingling with the soft strains of classical music. Every detail is flawless, from the pristine white rose arrangements to the velvet-draped chairs aligned with precision. This is the realm of society's highest echelons, where every smile and handshake carries hidden meaning. Though accustomed to luxurious boardrooms and high-end corporate galas, Abigail feels out of place in this setting. It's not for lack of poise or stature, but because she's always kept a distance from ostentatious displays. To her, value lies in work, in numbers and strategies, not in sparkling lights or hollow pleasantries. Sarah, with her effortless charm, pulls her to a corner of the garden, where they watch the crowd ebb and flow. "Relax, Abby," Sarah whispers, handing her a glass of rich red wine. Abigail takes a sip, letting the bold flavor linger, hoping it will quell the growing unease in her chest. As her gaze drifts across the garden, A strange sensation stirs within her. Something in the air feels charged, as if fate is quietly orchestrating a moment. She can't name the feeling, but it quickens her pulse, as though she's teetering on the edge of something monumental. Abigail tries to focus on Sarah's light-hearted gossip about the groom's powerful family, a dynasty that helped shape the city. But her mind wanders, tugged toward memories she's fought to bury. 3 years ago, she stood in a crowded room, her eyes meeting a man who made the world seem to pause. That man, with his warm smile and soulful gaze, stirred her heart in ways she'd never known. But life, with its unforgiving demands, tore them apart. As Abigail enters the main ceremony area, where an altar stands beneath a breathtaking floral arch, a jolt shoots through her. She can't explain why, but each step feels heavier, as if she's drawing closer to a truth she's not ready to face. Guests begin settling into their seats, and the violins swell, signaling the ceremony's start. Abigail finds a discreet spot in the back row, trying to blend into the crowd. But when her eyes inadvertently sweep toward the altar, time seems to freeze. There, in a perfectly tailored suit, stands the man she thought she'd left behind. James Wentworth, both familiar and distant, poised to exchange vows with another woman. Abigail's heart pounds wildly, threatening to burst from her chest. The air around her thickens, making it hard to breathe. Memories flood back like a tidal wave. James's smile under dim lights, late-night conversations that stretched until dawn, and the sense that the universe had quietly bound them together. But it all shattered when she left for her career, abandoning an unspoken promise. Now, he stands mere feet away, yet belongs to an entirely different world. Abigail wants to turn away, to flee this waking nightmare. But her feet are rooted, and her heart, defying all reason, refuses to let go. The evening Abigail thought would be a simple escape has become a pivotal crossroads. She doesn't yet know that in the hours ahead, she'll face a choice that will forever alter her life's path. The dazzling garden, with all its beauty, is merely the stage for a greater story, one of love, courage, and moments that dare to change everything. Abigail Harper, the woman who controls every detail, is about to face a challenge no spreadsheet or strategy can prepare her for. And at its heart is the man she once loved, the one she thought she'd lost forever. As Abigail Harper steps into the resplendent garden of the estate, the glow of crystal chandeliers and the scent of white roses envelop her like a dream. She tries to blend into the opulent crowd, but a vague unease slows her steps. When her gaze inadvertently sweeps across the intricately adorned altar, her heart seems to stop. There, beneath a canopy of pristine white blooms, stands a man she never thought she'd see again. James Wentworth, both familiar and distant, appears in a flawlessly tailored suit, poised for the defining moment of his life. In an instant, the world shrinks, leaving only Abigail and the man who once made her believe love could be fate. 3 years ago, at a charity gala in Manhattan, Abigail entered a room awash in light and practiced smiles. She was there representing her firm, a young financial advisor building her reputation. James, honored for his foundation's contributions, stood across the room, commanding attention with his natural confidence and radiant smile. When their eyes met through the crowd, a spark ignited, as if the universe had quietly conspired. He approached, his gaze alight with mischief, and offered her a glass of wine with a voice as warm as summer. "A drink for the only woman in this room who doesn't seem fake," he said, and Abigail, usually reserved, couldn't suppress a smile. They stood by the bar, red wine shimmering in their glasses, and launched into a conversation that stretched for hours. Their stories flowed effortlessly, from childhood dreams to the pressures of adult life. Abigail shared memories of her grandmother's garden, where she played among wildflowers. James spoke of sleepless nights, striving to meet the expectations of his powerful family. There was no boasting of wealth or achievements, just two souls finding each other in a world of pretense. Their connection was so intense that Abigail, who always controlled her emotions, felt her heart pulse to a new rhythm. She had never experienced anything like it, and in that moment, she believed this was fate. As the gala ended, James took her hand, his fingers brushing her wrist, leaving a lingering warmth. "I want to continue this story somewhere quieter," he said, his eyes brimming with sincerity. Abigail gave him her number, her heart soaring with hope for something greater. But life, with its unforgiving plans, had other intentions. The next morning, Abigail received an offer she couldn't refuse, to lead a major financial project in London, a chance to shape her career. She didn't hesitate, choosing the path she'd spent her life building. What began as a 6-month project stretched into 3 years, and the distance between her and James grew vast. Their early messages brimmed with passion, like small flames fighting a cold wind. James sent brief notes about his hectic days. Abigail replied with tales of London. But time and grueling schedules dimmed that spark. Messages dwindled from daily to weekly, then stopped altogether. Abigail told herself it was inevitable, a beautiful moment that couldn't last. She buried memories of James in a deep corner of her mind, where they became a sweet but distant dream. She focused on work, on numbers and strategies, convinced her career was where she belonged. Yet sometimes, in London's long nights, when the city's lights blurred through her window, she felt a void she dared not name. Now, standing in this lavish garden, Abigail feels the past and present collide with staggering force. James, the man who once set her heart alight, stands ready to vow his life to another. She can't see the bride's face from her angle, but the resplendent gown and regal posture say enough. This is a woman of James's world, a realm of wealth and power Abigail always kept at arm's length. Her heart races, each beat a reminder of what she's lost. She wants to turn away, to flee this garden and forget she ever saw him. But her feet are rooted, her eyes unable to break from James. Memories of that gala night surge like a wave, carrying both joy and pain. She recalls his smile, the way he listened as if she were the only person in the room. She remembers the safety of standing beside him, as if the world could crumble and they'd still be fine. But she also recalls the loneliness when his messages stopped, when she realized distance wasn't just physical, but a chasm between their lives. Abigail chose her career, and she hasn't regretted it. Or so she's told herself these past 3 years. But now, seeing James at the altar, she can't deny that a part of her still yearns for what she left behind. Abigail feels like an outsider in this scene, a woman adrift amid extravagance and perfect smiles. She doesn't belong here, not for lack of refinement, but because her heart seeks authenticity, the kind she once found in James. Yet now, he's the groom of another, and Abigail is merely an uninvited guest, a shadow from a past no one expected. She tries to steady herself, drawing deep breaths to calm the storm within. She tells herself she'll sit quietly, watch the ceremony end, and leave without a trace. But deep down, she knows her heart won't let go so easily. The garden, with all its beauty, has become the stage for an internal battle Abigail didn't foresee. Each violin note, each step of the guests, pushes her closer to a moment she can't control. James Wentworth, the man who was once her dream, is now the center of a story where she's no longer the lead. But fate, as it often does, has its own plans. And Abigail, unaware, stands on the threshold of a choice that will forever alter her life. In the opulent garden, where crystal chandeliers intertwine with cascades of white roses, Abigail Harper stands frozen, her heart constricting as her gaze locks onto James Wentworth. He stands at the intricately adorned altar, clad in a perfectly tailored suit, his presence both achingly familiar and heartbreakingly distant. Every feature of his face, from the depth of his eyes to the faint curve of his smile, etches itself into her mind, summoning memories of a night 3 years ago when they stood so close she could feel his warmth. But now, James is poised to pledge his life to another, a graceful figure in a resplendent wedding gown, visible to Abigail only through the delicate veil from afar. The scene feels like a nightmare, where everything she once yearned for slips through her fingers, becoming someone else's reality. Abigail tries to stay composed, forcing herself to blend into the crowd of guests, as if she's merely a stranger passing through. She clutches her wine glass, her fingers gripping so tightly her knuckles pale, hoping the tidal wave of emotions within her will subside. But her heart refuses to obey. It screams, a silent yet fierce cry, reminding her of what she's lost, of the man who once made her believe love could conquer any barrier. Each note of the violins, each greeting from the officiant, pierces her chest like a blade. She longs to turn away, to flee this garden, to escape the image of James standing beside someone who isn't her. But her feet are rooted to the ground, her eyes unable to break from him, as if an invisible thread holds her in place. The ceremony unfolds with flawless solemnity, but to Abigail, it's a blur of hazy images. She sees the bride ascend to the altar, her veil shimmering under the lights, and James, with a dignified air, taking her hand. Every passing moment is a stark reminder that she's arrived too late, that her chance with James vanished long ago. She tells herself she has no right to be here, no right to feel this pain or regret. She chose her career, left New York to chase her dreams, and now she must face the consequences. But no matter how strong her logic, it can't extinguish the fire raging within her. When the officiant, with a warm, resonant voice, poses the traditional question, "If anyone objects to this marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace," the garden falls into a moment of perfect stillness. Abigail feels the air around her thicken, as if time itself slows, granting her one final chance to confront her truth. She draws a deep breath, willing her heart to stay silent, but an uncontrollable impulse surges from deep within. It's powerful, primal, an instinct she can't resist. Before she can fully comprehend, her legs propel her to her feet. Her trembling hand rises, and her voice, clearer than she thought possible, cuts through the silence. "I have a reason." The garden seems to hold its breath. Hundreds of eyes turn to Abigail, a mix of shock, curiosity, outrage, and astonishment. Guests in their lavish attire swivel their heads, whispers rippling like waves. Sarah, seated beside her, stares wide-eyed, her face etched with disbelief. Abigail's heart pounds, each beat like a drum echoing in her chest. She stands alone amid a sea of people, like an actor lost on a stage that isn't hers. But all she can see is James. He turns, his gaze locking onto hers, and in that moment, she sees a cascade of emotions cross his face. Recognition, shock, and a flicker she dares not name, hope. Abigail knows she's just shattered every rule, not only of the ceremony, but of her own life. She's a woman driven by reason, always measuring each step, calculating every risk. In her world, decisions are guided by logic, actions rooted in purpose. But this moment defies logic, defies planning. It's the raw call of her heart, a call she can no longer ignore. She stands there, feeling the weight of countless stares like arrows piercing her. But James's eyes are the only anchor keeping her upright. In them, she sees a question, an expectation, and a fragment of the past they once shared. The bride, veiled and graceful, slowly turns. Though Abigail can't see her expression, the bride's rigid posture speaks volumes: confusion, anger, and a hint of hurt. A wave of guilt crashes over Abigail. She never meant to ruin anyone's sacred day, never intended to become the center of a scandal. But now, she's crossed a line, and there's no turning back. The whispers in the crowd grow louder, a swelling tide threatening to engulf her. She catches fragments of conversation. Who is she? What's happening? Is this a joke? But the sounds fade, drowned by the frantic rhythm of her own heartbeat. Abigail feels as if she's standing on a precipice, one side offering the safety of reason, the other a chasm of emotion. She has no plan for what comes next, no prepared explanation. All she knows is that, in this moment, she couldn't let James belong to another without speaking out. Even if it means dismantling everything she's built, even if it brands her a villain in every eye, she couldn't stay silent. Standing up wasn't just an impulse, it was a declaration, an admission that she's been running from her heart for too long. The garden, with all its dazzling beauty, has become an arena where Abigail confronts herself. James, his gaze unwavering, is the flame guiding her through the storm. She doesn't know what lies ahead. Forgiveness, rejection, or a scandal that will forever alter her life. But in that moment, she feels a strange freedom, as if she's finally broken the chains of reason to truly live for the first time. Abigail Harper, the woman who controls everything, has just wagered it all on a single moment, and now she can only wait to see where fate will lead her. The lavish garden, moments ago steeped in solemn silence, now trembles with a quiet wave of chaos. Abigail Harper stands frozen, her heart pounding wildly as hundreds of eyes fixate on her after her impulsive act. Her words, "I have a reason," still echo in the air, like a stone cast into a still lake, sending uncontrollable ripples outward. Before she can grasp the consequences, a tall man, James's best man, strides toward her. His stern face and firm voice brook no argument as he grips her elbow, ushering her out of the garden amid the growing murmurs of the crowd. Abigail feels her legs move as if they belong to someone else, each step a struggle to stay upright against the storm of emotions engulfing her. They enter a small room in the mansion, where soft light from a chandelier bathes polished wooden walls. The room bears James's imprint, a half-finished glass of whiskey on the table, a pair of silver cufflinks forgotten on a cabinet. The door closes behind them, muting the clamor outside, but the silence within is heavier still. Abigail stands, hands clenched, a wave of regret crashing over her. She's just shattered someone's sacred day, disrupted a meticulously planned ceremony, and perhaps wounded a woman she barely knows. She wonders what possessed her, a woman who lives by reason, who weighs every word, to let her heart lead so blindly. Then the door opens, and James steps in. His gaze locks onto hers, unwavering, as if the world beyond has dissolved. In his pristine wedding suit, he's both achingly familiar and strangely distant, a man she once thought she knew but now seems an enigma. Abigail's heart tightens as he draws closer, each step pulling her back to a moment 3 years ago when they stood side by side in a crowded room, sharing dreams and laughter. But now, there's no laughter, only a suffocating tension enveloping the room. She wants to speak, to explain, but words catch in her throat. All she can do is search his eyes for a sign that she hasn't just made the greatest mistake of her life. The air grows heavier as the door swings open again, and Isabella, the bride, enters. Her veil glimmers under the light, but her rigid posture and faintly trembling shoulders betray a fierce emotion she's struggling to contain. A chill runs down Abigail's spine. She's never met Isabella before, but in this moment, she feels the weight of what she's caused. Isabella stands, a vision of grace yet commanding, like a queen insulted on her own throne. No one speaks, but the silence between the three is a silent battlefield, where every glance and gesture carries its own meaning. Abigail braces for a storm, an accusation, an eruption of anger. But what happens next leaves her stunned. James, with a low, resolute voice, breaks the silence. He looks at Isabella, then back at Abigail, and in an unexpected moment, he reveals a truth no one in the room anticipated. His marriage to Isabella, he confesses, isn't born of love, but a calculated arrangement between two powerful families. It's a business alliance, a deal to merge financial empires, cloaked in the guise of a romantic tale. Abigail's mind reels. She thought she was destroying a true love, but instead she's unwittingly exposed a truth both James and Isabella sought to conceal. Isabella, with astonishing composure, slowly slips the engagement ring from her finger. The diamond catches the light one final time before she sets it on the table, a gentle yet decisive act. She looks at James, then at Abigail, her eyes not filled with anger but with a profound acceptance. She admits she agreed to the marriage to please her family, but deep down, she knew they both deserved something truer. There are no tears, no arguments, only a strange serenity as she steps out of the room, leaving James and Abigail in a silence laden with weight. Abigail stands, her mind in turmoil. She feels both relief and guilt. Relief that she didn't shatter a genuine love, but guilt for causing pain to a woman who didn't deserve it. She looks at James, still standing there, his expression now more complex, as if he's wrestling with himself. She wants to ask why, to understand why he agreed to a marriage he didn't truly want. But she says nothing, knowing this moment isn't just about James or Isabella. It's about her, about how she dared to stand and face her heart. The room, with its stillness, becomes a space where truths are laid bare. Abigail realizes her impulsive act didn't just disrupt a ceremony. It opened a door she hadn't foreseen. James, his gaze never leaving her, seems to stand at a crossroads too. They say little, but their presence speaks volumes. That their past, though faded by time, still pulses with life, and this moment could be a chance to rewrite their story. As Isabella departs, Abigail senses a shift in the air. She doesn't know what comes next, but she knows she's crossed a threshold, and the path ahead will never be the same. The garden outside, with its whispers and twinkling lights, fades into a distant backdrop. At the center of everything are her and James, two souls drawn back together by fate, standing before a chance to confront what they've lost. Abigail Harper, the woman who controls everything, has just entered uncharted territory, where her heart, not her mind, will lead the way. After the earth-shattering scandal at the wedding, Abigail Harper returns to her luxurious Manhattan apartment, but her mind remains trapped in that resplendent garden where she stood and upended everything. The days that follow blur into a fog of tangled emotions. New York's tabloids buzz with headlines. Millionaire's wedding crumbles at the altar, paired with sensational titles and hasty photos of the lavish estate. Fortunately, Abigail's name stays out of the stories, but she still feels the weight of prying glances from colleagues and friends. Stolen looks in boardrooms, veiled questions over lunch. They all remind her that her impulsive act has left an indelible mark. She buries herself in work, trying to drown out thoughts of James Wentworth. But each night, as the city lights fade beyond her window, she wonders if she truly saw a spark in his eyes, or if it was merely a figment of her heart's longing. Abigail, a woman who controls every facet of her life, now feels like a ship adrift in a storm. She replays every moment in that mansion room. James's gaze, charged with unspoken emotion. Isabella removing her engagement ring with astonishing grace. Above all, she recalls James's eyes, recognition, shock, and a glimmer of hope she dares not believe was real. She questions whether she's inflating the meaning of that moment, whether her heart is deceiving her into believing there's still a chance for a story that ended 3 years ago. She tries to return to her routine, early meetings, lengthy reports, business trips, but her mind drifts back to the garden, to James's face, and to the looming question, what happens next? A month passes, and Abigail begins to convince herself she imagined it all. The scandal fades, overtaken by fresh gossip in high society. She persuades herself that James has moved on, that the moment in that room was a fleeting disruption, not a promise of a future. But then, on a drizzly Tuesday evening, with New York's sky cloaked in gray, and the streets shimmering with reflected lights, her doorbell rings. Abigail, still in her work attire, opens the door and freezes. James stands there, soaked to the bone, his disheveled hair plastered to his forehead, clutching a bouquet of wildflowers. Not expensive roses or orchids, but the simple wildflowers she mentioned 3 years ago, in a story about her grandmother's garden from the night they met. He looks at her, his gaze tender yet resolute, and she knows instantly this is no dream. That moment marks the start of a new journey, but not a flawless fairy tale. James and Abigail begin again, this time with raw honesty, and a resolve to not let time or distance tear them apart once more. They choose simple dates, far from the flash of paparazzi and elite galas. One evening, they sit in a cozy Italian eatery in the West Village, where no one knows the name James Wentworth. They share pasta, sip red wine, and talk for hours, as if the 3 years apart never existed. James speaks of the pressures of running his family's foundation, of the expectations he's always strived to meet. Abigail shares tales of long nights in London, of building her career while losing a piece of herself. They laugh, they fall silent, and they find each other again in small, meaningful moments. Weekend drives along the coast become their ritual. They wind through twisting roads, windows down to let the sea breeze flood in, stopping at small towns to eat ice cream or stroll along the sand. Under starlit skies, they lie on an old blanket, sharing dreams they once kept hidden. These moments, simple yet profound, let them rediscover each other, not as idealized versions from the past, but as real people with scars, fears, and hopes. Abigail realizes James isn't just the man she once loved. He's the one she chooses every day, no matter what lies ahead. But their path is far from easy. The wedding scandal, though faded from the headlines, lingers in their lives. James's family, a powerful dynasty with far-reaching influence, keeps Abigail at arm's length. Their politeness is laced with a chill, their rare invitations to family events, a silent reminder that she's the woman who humiliated them. Abigail's colleagues, while supportive on the surface, whisper behind her back about her climbing through James. Some close friends, with good intentions, warn her about dating a man like him, a millionaire with a vastly different world. "Men like him don't marry women like us," one friend says, and the words, though unintended, cut Abigail deeply. As a black woman in a white-dominated financial world, Abigail is no stranger to judgment. She's fought to be recognized for her talent, not her skin or background. But now, she faces a new prejudice, that she's with James for his wealth or status, not love. These whispers, though quiet, pierce her, sometimes making her doubt herself. James, though attentive and sincere, grapples with pressures from his foundation's board and media scrutiny. Their relationship, though passionate, is tested by an outside world where love is rarely seen as just love. Yet in these challenges, they find the strength to hold fast. One evening, when the weight of gossip feels too heavy, James takes Abigail's hand and leads her to his apartment's balcony. Under New York's twinkling lights, he looks into her eyes, saying little, but his presence soothes her heart. They learn to face the judging stares, the murmurs, and unwanted expectations, not by running, but by choosing each other day after day. Abigail and James, despite their differences and pressures, are building a bond rooted in authenticity, a foundation no amount of money or power can buy. The relationship between Abigail Harper and James Wentworth, though born from a fateful moment, is no glittering Hollywood romance. Beneath New York's dazzling lights, where their love blossoms through simple dates and starlit conversations, cold gusts of reality still blow. Their love, though fierce and true, faces challenges not just from within, but from an outside world rife with prejudice, pressure, and invisible barriers. Abigail, with her resilient yet vulnerable heart, and James, with his sincerity but occasional clumsiness, must learn to navigate profound differences to hold on to each other. As a black woman in a white-dominated financial world, Abigail is no stranger to fighting for recognition. She's spent a decade proving her worth, overcoming skeptical glances and unseen obstacles tied to her skin or background. Every career milestone is the fruit of doubled effort, of sleepless nights perfecting reports, of maintaining a professional smile amid unfair remarks. But with James, a millionaire from high society, she faces a new, bitter prejudice. Whispers from colleagues and acquaintances suggest she's with him for money or status, not love. She's clever, snagging a millionaire. A coworker once remarked during lunch, thinking Abigail couldn't hear. Those words, though small, pierce her deeply, making her wonder if the world will ever see her as a woman who loves sincerely or merely an opportunist. James's family, though outwardly polite, does little to ease her wounds. A powerful dynasty with a storied New York legacy, they once prided themselves on the arranged marriage between James and Isabella, a perfect business alliance veiled in romance. Abigail's actions at the wedding, though unintentional, shattered that plan. And to James's family, she's the woman who humiliated them before the elite. Rare invitations to family events, curt nods at galas, and the absence of warm conversation all reveal the truth. They don't accept her, not for who she is, but because she represents an unwelcome disruption. Abigail, with her sharp intuition, senses this distance, and though she never admits it, it makes her feel like an outsider in James's world. Their differing backgrounds also spark inevitable tension. Abigail grew up in a middle-class family where every dollar came from hard work. She takes pride in paying off her student loans, in building her career without relying on anyone. James, by contrast, was born into privilege, where money and opportunity were ever present. He never flaunts it, but his casual ease sometimes wounds her. One evening, over dinner at his apartment, he offhandedly offers to pay off her student loans. "I just want to help," he says, his eyes full of goodwill. To Abigail, the offer feels like an invisible slap. She stands abruptly, her voice trembling with anger, refusing outright. "I'm not your charity case," she snaps, and the room falls into a heavy silence. It's their first fight, a small but profound crack exposing gaps their love hasn't yet bridged. The argument stretches late into the night, but rather than tearing them apart, they choose to confront it. In hours of raw conversation, Abigail explains how James's offer, though well-meant, made her feel her worth was diminished. She doesn't want rescue. She wants to be seen as an equal, someone who built everything herself. James listens without interrupting, and for the first time, he admits he's never fully grasped the challenges she faces. He shares the pressure of living in his family's shadow, the expectations he's always tried to meet, even when they suffocate him. Through their honest words, they begin to understand each other, not just as lovers, but as individuals with unique stories and scars. Those conversations pave a new path. James starts seeing the world through Abigail's eyes. She takes him to New York's hidden corners, neighborhoods he's never explored despite a lifetime here. They eat tacos from a street cart, sit on park benches listening to buskers, and laugh in moments of simple, overflowing joy. Abigail, with patience and sincerity, shows James the beauty in the ordinary, in a world unbound by wealth or status. In return, James teaches her that accepting help doesn't mean surrendering independence. He doesn't try to change her, but learns to honor the values she holds dear. The challenges don't vanish, but they become chances to grow closer. When Abigail feels wounded by co-workers' gossip, James holds her hand, not promising to change the world, but simply being there, letting her know she's not alone. When James faces pressure from his foundation's board, Abigail sits beside him, strategizing and believing in his vision. They become each other's anchor, not just in moments of joy, but on the hardest days. Abigail and James's love, though imperfect, is built on truth and trust. They learn to overcome prejudice, not by ignoring it, but by facing it and choosing each other daily. Abigail, who once thought she had to fight the world alone, begins to see that love doesn't weaken her. It makes her stronger. James, who lived by others' expectations, finds freedom in loving a woman who defies every rule. Their relationship, with all its trials, proves that true love isn't about perfection, but the courage to face the storms together. 1 year after the scandal that shook the opulent garden, Abigail Harper and James Wentworth stand on a white sand beach in Bali, where whispering waves and a sunset painting the sky in vibrant golds and pinks create a breathtaking backdrop. Gone are the crystal chandeliers and hundreds of lavishly dressed guests. Their ceremony is intimate, attended only by their closest family and friends, gathered to witness the moment they exchange heartfelt vows. Abigail's flowing white dress, light and elegant, dances in the sea breeze, as if swaying to the ocean's rhythm. James, in a cream linen suit, holds her hand, his smile radiant in the fading light, a silent promise that from this day forward, they'll face everything together. This is more than a wedding. It's a testament to a love forged through trials and prejudice, proof that sometimes a single act of courage can lead to everlasting happiness. The path to this Bali beach was anything but easy. After the upheaval at James's wedding, Abigail and he faced unforeseen tempests. Tabloids plastered James's name across headlines, and though Abigail's identity remained private, she felt the weight of scrutinizing stares from colleagues, friends, and strangers. James's family, while gradually accepting her, maintained a subtle distance, as if they hadn't fully forgiven her for disrupting their plans. Abigail, with her steadfast heart, learned to navigate these prejudices, but not every day was she unbreakable. Some nights, she lay awake, questioning whether she truly belonged in James's world, or if their love could withstand the invisible pressures from outside. Yet James, with unwavering sincerity, stood by her. Not to shield her, but to face every challenge alongside her. He didn't promise a perfect life, but he vowed to choose her, no matter what the world said. They built a life rooted in honesty and trust, where small moments became their strongest foundation. One afternoon, James surprised her at her office with a homemade lunch, just to see her smile amid a stressful workday. One weekend, Abigail dragged him into an old car and drove along the coast, no destination in mind, just to feel the freedom of being together. These simple outings reminded them that love didn't need glamour or external validation. It only needed two hearts in sync. Their life wasn't without challenges, but those struggles deepened their bond. As a black woman in a prejudiced financial world, Abigail was accustomed to judgment, but with James, she faced whispers that she was with him for money or status. Those remarks, though quiet, left scratches on her heart. James, perceptive and caring, sensed her pain. He didn't dismiss it with empty promises, but took time to understand her world. He joined her in the neighborhoods where she grew up, listened to stories of her family, and learned to cherish the values she carried. In return, Abigail learned to open her heart, realizing that love sometimes means letting someone into her world, even if it makes her feel vulnerable. Together they explored the world, not just through travel but through shared purpose. Both passionate about giving back, they devoted time to charities, from building schools in underserved areas to funding education programs. These projects gave their lives meaning and drew them closer. Abigail, with her sharp intellect, helped James strategize for his foundation, while James, with his expansive vision, encouraged her to believe in her power to change the world. They became partners, not just in love, but in the grand dreams they pursued together. Each morning, as sunlight filters through their apartment window, Abigail and James wake with profound gratitude. They know their life isn't perfect. There are still stressful days, small arguments, and external pressures. But they also know that imperfection is what makes their love real. They don't need a castle or a fairy tale. They need only each other, and that's enough. Abigail, once bound by rigid rules, now finds joy in letting her heart lead. James, once trapped by family expectations, finds freedom in loving a woman who defies every limit. On that Bali beach, as they stand before each other, exchanging simple yet profound vows, Abigail feels a peace she's never known. The ring on her finger glints in the sunset, but it's James's gaze, the look of a man who's chosen her, not just today, but every day hereafter, that stirs her heart. As they share their first dance on the sand, with the waves as their music, James leans in, his breath brushing her ear. He says nothing, but his presence affirms that the moment she stood up in that garden a year ago saved them both from a life without true love. Abigail and James's story proves that real love doesn't stem from perfection or ease. It comes from the courage to listen to your heart, even when the world tells you to stop. They've overcome prejudice, social divides, and past scars to build a life that's full. Not because it's flawless, but because it's built on daily choices. From New York to Bali, from starlit talks to days facing pressure, they've shown that a single act of courage can lead to a love that transcends all barriers. As the last rays of sunset melt into the horizon, Abigail and James hold hands, walking along the beach, not as fairy tale characters, but as real people with dreams, fears, and a love strong enough to withstand the world. Their life, with all its hues and challenges, is a reminder that the greatest happiness often comes from the scariest moments. Those times when you dare to stand, dare to love, and dare to trust that your heart knows the right path.